Hey, good kind people, what is going on? Lee Sanders here, 411 Mania columnist. Hey, you know what time it is. Thank you for tuning in for this Thursday of February 10th, 2022. We are covering WoW Women of Wrestling Fallout. These past couple of weeks now, we've been talking about the lost episodes that they made available of their previous season that was on Access TV. We got us a total of 12 to 13 lost episodes that never aired. So we have spent these past couple of weeks thus far going over these lost episodes, getting you guys ready for the new season when it does premiere this fall. Are you excited? I know I am. I'm totally pumped up. So, following up on what we had talked about from last week's episode, I said to you guys that I was going to check out how everything was laid out on the CW app because we had a little bit of a discrepancy. For those of you that maybe did not tune in to the previous couple of episodes, I couldn't help but notice that on Pluto TV, where Women of Wrestling episodes are available, they have even the lost episodes all blanketed under season 1. And those of us that remember when Women of Wrestling was on Access TV, they were dubbing it season 2. And so I said to you guys, oh, I'm going to go and see what's going on via the CW app because so far I've been watching all the episodes on Pluto TV. Lord, the amount of commercials that you have to sit through as well. But I will say this. The CW app beats Pluto TV from this standpoint. And by the way, it looks as though the way that they have the WoW Women of Wrestling episodes set up on the CW app, they just pretty much dubbed them episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. There is no season behind it from what I saw. So that's kind of cool, right? Now, CW app beats Pluto TV from this standpoint. When you try to fast forward to a particular scene on Pluto TV with whatever show you're watching on demand, sadly, it will force you to watch ads in each respected segment. So I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say, and this literally had happened to me with this week's WoW episode. I had tried to fast forward by 20 minutes so I could just go to, actually, correction, I tried to jump to the main event match between Tessa Blanchard and Jungle Grrrl, which came about at around the 45-minute mark. I accidentally had backed out completely from that Pluto TV app. And so I tried to go back in, and sadly, Pluto TV, at least to my knowledge, there's no way for you to resume where you last left off. I don't see a login portal, anything of that nature. So you sadly have to go back in and you have to manually go and right. I mean, that is very tedious. So I discovered that when I was trying to fast forward to that 45-minute mark where the main event match began, even though I was fast forwarding, there was a automatic, we're going to stop you right here. And instead of going to that point, I was getting advertisement spots forced at the 5-minute mark and then the 17-minute mark and then etc. etc. Whereas on the CW app, you can definitely seek the point where you're trying to get to, which I did. However, I did have to sit through some ads. It felt as though I watched a little bit more ads as opposed to Pluto TV. It felt as though it was double the ads. So if you were to tell me that with Pluto I had to sit through 3 minutes worth of ads, it felt as if I was sitting through almost 5 minutes worth of ads on the CW app. But I was able to resume at the point that I wanted to resume. So take that how you guys want it. And not to mention, at least when you're watching stuff on the CW app, it marks when you've watched an episode completely and or when you need to pick up where you left off, whereas Pluto, it does not. Let me know if you guys have been having similar experiences and checking out Women of Wrestling on those two respected apps, and if you've been noticing the same thing. I'm most curious. I'm definitely most curious. So we're here talking about episode 23 of Women of Wrestling, and things picked up a notch in a big way. We actually had Exodus in the Exile. I was thinking of members Exodus, Genesis, Malaya Hosaka, but we had two new Women of Wrestling debuts on this same episode. We had Venomous, and if she looks a little bit familiar to you, it's for very good reason, as you may know her under a different name. We'll talk about that in a hot minute. And we had a former tag team partner of Amber O'Neill's that made her WoW debut on this very same episode. So a whole lot of shaking going on, as in the main event match, it was Tessa Blanchard taking on Jungle Grrrl, hopefully to get the bragging rights to face the Beast for the WoW Women's Championship. So a whole lot of shaking and moving going on this respected episode. So kicking things off for this episode of WoW, we had Jungle Grrrl, who was in the house, and she was cutting a scathing promo on Beast and Tessa Blanchard, pretty much following up on what went down last week, where phenomenal main event match on that respected episode 22, where the Beast was defending her championship against Serpentine. And what a big old cluster fuck that came about at the end of that match. Go back and check out the Reaction Edition episode. Had a blast covering it, and I see that there were many of you that went out of your way to check out my thoughts for that episode. Appreciate that. And hey, always feel free to leave a comment on all the content, especially on the WoW content. Definitely share it. Really helps out a ton. I know there's a lot of you guys out there, you wish there was more coverage for stuff like WoW, for NWA. So definitely make sure you're doing your part. But I will tell you this, if you leave comments, I'm happy to say to you guys, every single comment that is left, I respond to it. So don't think you're commenting and it's going in vain. It's going ignored. I respond to every single message that comes my way. So we had that big old clusterfuck of an ending from the last episode, and we're pretty much picking up where we left off here. Jungle Grrrl has a message for the Beast, which is, hey, Beast, I may not be the biggest. For Tessa Blanchard, it's Tessa, I may not be the baddest. But what Jungle Grrrl is, she's the best at what she does. And she says to Beast, she has a long way to go before taking her spot, her Jungle Grrrl spot. Tessa, on the other hand, can at this point go run to her daddy, or maybe it's her stepdaddy. And that was just the camel that broke the back as far as Tessa Blanchard was concerned, as Tessa came out guns blazing, fist up, and was just taking it to Jungle Grrrl, as this had pretty much set up our main event match for later on in the night, set up by the one and only David McLean. Going to our first matchup on the card, Lana Starr coming out to introduce a new signee to her respected entourage, her enterprise. She has signed up Chrissy Vayne as her new client. Nowhere in sight was Faith the Lioness. We'll talk a little bit more about Faith, as she did make a appearance, a little cameo in this very same episode. We'll talk more about that in a hot second. But Chrissy Vayne is her new client, her new protege, and she is a former tag partner of one Amber O'Neil. So if Chrissy Vayne looked familiar to you, maybe you did a little bit of research of your own. Maybe you did not do research, but kind of said, she looks a little bit familiar. Or maybe you guys just like your trivia stuff. You didn't do any research at all. Chrissy Vayne, former tag partner of Amber O'Neil. This goes back to their days when they were known as Team Blondage. Okay? You may be a little bit familiar with Chrissy Vane and her work under World Wrestling Entertainment. No, she never did make it up to the main roster. She was only in WWE's developmental back in the mid 2000s for about a year, maybe a year and some change. She was under DSW, Deep South Wrestling. And the developmental deal that she had signed through WWE to be assigned to Deep South Wrestling. She wrestled under Chrissy Vane. She made her debut in DSW back in 2006, where she had, I'm trying to think, she and Crystal Marshall were doing some stuff together. She also became a general manager for DSW as well. She had a feud with Angel Williams. Angel Williams, otherwise known as Angelina Love of the Beautiful People, TNA Impact, Velvet Sky, and all of them. So she kept doing a little bit of DSW TV here and there, and then when DSW was shut down and the transition was made to Florida Championship Wrestling, Chrissy Vane did do something for them. She did make her debut for that promotion in 2007. She had a match against Natalia Neidhart. It was in a three-way that had involved Chantel Taylor. From there, she ended up teaming up with Natty Neidhart. They have faced the Bella Twins. Victoria Crawford was a special guest referee. There's also some stuff that had involved. You know what? Now that I'm really thinking about it, she did make technically a TV appearance. It involved SmackDown, but she was in a backstage segment, and it had involved Vicky Guerrero. But yeah, nothing really came to fruition as far as her official run on main WWE programming, as she was shortly dismissed after that. She did the independents for a couple of years. She even did something with the Lucha Libre promotion. And then pretty much once 2011 was over and done with, I believe that same year, she pretty much went on hiatus. She didn't get back into wrestling until 2019. Just to give you guys context, because I know a lot of you guys care greatly about context and everything. Now, in regards to the Team Blondage stuff with Amber O'Neal, that had went about during those 2 years from 2009 to 11 when she was doing stuff on the independents, and they actually had defeated the team, one of the first teams that they had took on as Team Blondage. They defeated Daphne and Mischief. They also did a little something with Jamie Jameson. So, you know, some stuff here and there. Lalani Kai. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff that they did in between and everything. So just to give you guys that context. So this is definitely, for all intents and purposes, this is definitely a veteran of the game. And she's been a little bit more active. I know WoW had went on hiatus and everything, mainly because of the Access TV deal, and then when the pandemic had came about. But for all intents and purposes, Chrissy Vane was busy in 2020. She did a handful of matches here and there. In 2021, she only did about 2 matches that I'm aware of. She did some stuff within recent years. She did some stuff for the PBW promotion. She also worked for the ARW Bombshells promotion. And that pretty much was it. So she's relatively been quiet. So it was definitely nice. I'm a little bit familiar with her work. Won't say I'm a hardcore fan, but I am a little bit familiar with her work, and I think she's okay. So it was great to see her in action. And basically, Lana Starr was addressing the rumors about how she did Amber O'Neal and how Amber O'Neal ended up basically with Jesse Jones, and that Amber O'Neal is in the position that she's in because of all the shenanigans that Lana Starr conducted, and Lana Starr was just denying all of that stuff. So main reason why Lana Starr and Chrissy Vayne were out here. They had a match that was coming up. And this match was going to be Chantilly Chella taking on Chrissy Vayne. So this is pretty much nice, good talking game before the storm, before we get down to the nitty gritty and all of that good stuff. So Chantilly Chella taking on Chrissy Vayne. Good match for what it was worth. I actually like the pace for this to be the first official matchup for this episode. I thought the pacing was pretty damn good. Like the closing moments of this matchup, as we saw a double knee strike that was successful by Chantilly Chella. She tried to go for a pin, but there was a kick out. From there, she did a beautiful knee to the face. All you could think was CM Punk, the way you saw that running knee to the face. She tried to follow it up with a suplex attempt, and Vayne countered it. She countered it and managed to get Chella into a suplex of her own. And when she was pinning Chantilly Chella, and the referee is doing the count, referee didn't see this from his respective vantage point, but outside of the ring, underneath the bottom row, we had Lana Starr that was grabbing onto the boots of Chantilly Chella to make sure that she did not kick out. 1, 2, 3. Lana Starr's new protege, her new client, Chrissy Vayne, picking up the dub and her Women of Wrestling TV debut. So what a upset right here. Definitely, definitely. Now, we would see these girls later on in a backstage segment where Faith the Lioness is in their dressing room and she's just taking care of her hair, putting on some makeup, and she's hearing Lana and Chrissy talk, and Lana says to her, "Hey, where were you?" And Faith the Lioness says, "Oh, I was out training." And they're going, "Training? What the hell is that? You really should have been at ringside. That's where your real training is. You need to be at ringside seeing how it gets done." And Lana Starr pretty much told Faith the Lioness straight up, "Look, you might want to be paying a little bit more closer attention now that Chrissy Vayne is here. Otherwise, you just might get replaced." And they pretty much walked off, leaving Faith the Lioness to really ponder whether or not this relationship truly is one that is mutually beneficial. Yeah, sure, it's definitely benefiting Lana Starr and her main agenda and everything, but we're already starting to see the gears turn a little bit there for Faith the Lioness. Here she is being this young kid, and she's trying to take her career to that next level, but as she's seeing here, it may not be all it appears to be in working with Lana Starr. Starting to really come off as if Faith the Lioness is having second thoughts about signing up with this woman. You can't help but wonder what exit strategy is she going to try to take, if there's any at all, especially if she signs some type of a contract. And I can't help but wonder, because I'm very curious how this is going to wrap itself up with the remaining episodes, but I can't help but wonder if Faith the Lioness may at some point reach out to Sophia Lopez, the world's greatest lawyer, right? And say to her, "Hey, look, I'm trying to get out of this contractual deal that I have set up here with Lana Starr. Is there any wiggle room? Is there any clause? Is there any loophole?" I wouldn't be surprised if maybe something of that magnitude may happen, but at the same time, what is Sophia Lopez's price for trying to assist Faith the Lioness to break out of that arrangement with Lana Starr, assuming that it is some type of a contractual agreement? Is Sophia Lopez going to go on ahead and, "Okay, well, look, just pay me my retainer's fee and boom, 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 you'll be good to go," or give me a cut of any future royalties you're able to make off of some of your albums? What kind of deal? Because Sophia Lopez is always wheeling and dealing and everything. It's always making sure that her bottom dollar, her bottom end gets met, right? So just something to have in the back of your head there, because remember, we talked about it last week. Actually, no, the week before. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about how Faith the Lioness is now under a WWE developmental deal, and they're already doing the vignettes of her coming up on NXT and everything. So you can't help but really, okay, so how is her story arc here and WoW really going to wrap up? So just have that going in the back of your mind. Meanwhile, Grits and Glam teamed up to face the team of Fire and Adrenaline. Remember, Fire and Adrenaline, they are our new WoW Women of Wrestling Tag Team Champions. Lana and Chrissy made an appearance on the commentary table. Oh, you already know what time it is, don't you guys? You already know what time it is. And you could just see the shenanigans coming a mile away, can you not? So, of course, we get these great video packages that are recapping what was going on with Grits and Glam as the twins were messing with them. They stole their boots. And so you've got Jesse Jones saying, hey, man, we couldn't make wrestling great again because them damn twins stole our boots. And we had our boots, we would have been able to go in there, win the damn thing, and become the new Women of Wrestling Tag Champions. Okay, so here's their opportunity. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's go. Well, next thing you know, before we could even go about with this, we saw the tag team champions in Fire and Adrenaline get jumped, and they got a massive beatdown by our girls in EXILE. Malia, Hosaka, Genesis, and Exodus. They beat the holy crap out of them. And Hosaka grabbed a microphone and said, it's very sad that once again I have to interfere here in a matchup, but yet again we are being overlooked. Okay, I've already beaten up. Now she's directing her attention to David McLean. I've already beaten up your bully busters. I've already beaten up your Wild Tag Team champions. Give me what I want. Give me competition, or else continue to suffer the consequences. David McLean, or she did say, or suspend us. She did put that option out there as well, I'm pretty sure. David McLean pretty much obliged her and said, okay, you want some competition? All right, it's going to be you all, EXILE. You all are going to be in action against Grits and Glam. You want competition? Okay, let's go there. So, look, at least with the Wild Tag Champions, you could definitely make an agreement that, wow, the Tag Champions, way to just out the gate with them as champions here. And this was their first title defense, if I'm not mistaken, since winning the championships. Damn, way that we just pushed them into the background. Look, I agree, but you know that once they've licked their wounds, they're going to want to come right back, and they're going to want to stick it to Exodus. So I keep calling them Exodus, the stable themselves, but it's EXILE. One of the girls is called Exodus. The other one is called Genesis. EXILE, EXILE, EXILE. Don't worry. I am still shaking off some of the Women of Wrestling cobwebs, but we're getting better as the weeks are progressing, as the episodes are progressing. I definitely feel you guys are noticing it. Hopefully you are noticing it. We're getting better and better as each episode goes on. I'm telling you, by the time we get to probably episode number 6, we are just going to be smooth like butter. I promise you guys. So Grits and Glam taking on EXILE members, Malaya Hosoka, and basically I'm trying to think if Genesis and Exodus were pretty much alternating, but if I remember correctly, I believe it was Exodus that was in here, and Genesis was just at ringside, just pretty much looking for her spots, looking for her cues to try to interfere and everything. Now, sadly, Amber O'Neil was greatly distracted because once she locked eyes on Lana Starr and Chrissy Vayne, she pretty much was fixated on them the entire time. Jesse Jones, she tried to do her best to keep Amber in check and focus on the match, but man, every single time you turn around, Amber O'Neil, any little bit of offense that she was able to get in there, she constantly was looking back over at the desk looking at Lana, looking at Chrissy, and you saw the writing on the wall that, okay, all right, Grits and Glam, they're pretty much going to lose this one because Amber O'Neil can't get her head in the game. She's still taking it rather personal. What all had came about with Lana Starr. Obviously, it affected her deeply the way Amber O'Neil just pretty much kicked her to the curb and everything. Okay, all right, whatever. Closing moments of this matchup. Amber O'Neil was going toe to toe with Malaya Hosaka. Malaya pretty much got the upper hand on her. I remember there was some type of a. I feel as though there was some type of a thrust kick that connected pretty damn good to Amber O'Neil. Something went down in the final moments, but I remember Malaya went in for a cover, and Jesse Jones, on the other hand, Jesse Jones was at ringside, outside, looking at the action, and she just decided to just cold clock the hell out of Genesis and Exodus. And despite all of that, still, it was a clean win, to my point. It was a clean win. EXILE did pick up the W, but you still had all that chaos that was erupting at ringside and everything. So, once again, EXILE making their exit. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. Grits and Glam look as though they have a couple of wrinkles here. What exactly is going to happen here with Grits and Glam? Is Grits and Glam ultimately going to break up because Amber O'Neil feels that, right, we've already been seeing this web be spun the past couple of episodes now, where Amber O'Neil is starting to have not really buyer's remorse, but she is starting to second guess her decision to team with Jesse Jones. And I tell you what, I would not be surprised if at this point Lana Starr, seeing this type of aura that she has on Amber O'Neil, I really would not be surprised if Lana Starr played up to those emotions and spun it in such a way where maybe she ultimately ends up saying to Amber O'Neil, not for nothing, but you had better days when you were with me. You should really strongly consider ditching Jesse Jones. You can't help but wonder if Lana Starr is really going to play that type of a game only to continue to have her thumb on Amber O'Neil, or if this is going to be a case where just the mere fact that Lana is stirring the pot here, and we know how hot-headed Jesse Jones can be. Jesse Jones, I could definitely see further down the pipeline, she's being so hot-headed. She's got that country mentality, and she's really trying to snap Amber O'Neil out of it, get her head back into the game. Amber not really receptive to tough love, and ultimately there is a implosion for the Grits and Glam members. I mean, there's a couple of different ways that this can go, but you guys could definitely sound off and tell me where you think this is going. Hopefully you have not jumped a few episodes ahead, because it's nice to just deal with these episodes once a week and pretty much react accordingly. But we'll see what happens with that one. There was a Venomous promo. Now, Venomous is another one because she had her in-ring match debut on this very same episode. She may be a little bit familiar to you all as well. She goes by another name, which is Ruby Reyes. That's right, Ruby Reyes. And she's been at it for a good minute now. She's been at it a good minute now. Her vignette that she had for Women of Wrestling, I thought it was badass, as she was in a freaking lowrider as she's just going down the street. All I had in my mind when I saw her in that lowrider, that's all I had in my mind was that freaking song. She made her in-ring debut back in 2011, and she's worked for various promotions. You may have seen a big bulk of her stuff in Premier Wrestling, Vendetta Pro, or BTW, Big Time Wrestling, just to name a couple. But she continues to be very active despite the fact what was going on with WoW. She continued to be pretty active. Big, big chunk of her stuff as far as activity. She was doing a lot of stuff in 2020 alone. Definitely 2019 as well. 2019, she was very, very, very busy. 2020 as well, despite the pandemic, she was doing work for the SBW promotion, PCW, the Ground Zero promotion, IWA Mid South, Respect. Man, I mean, you just name it, EBPW, SFP, a lot of stuff. In more recent months, she was doing work for the UWN, RTB, the Level Up November, yeah, Level Up November Rain, which was the Level Up Pro Wrestling School, PCW Ultra, Ponder Chase. So in more recent months, yeah. So she has been very, very active. So, girl, that is officially a journeyman right here. Now, her opponent for her Wild Women of Wrestling debut, she went up against Sassy Massey. And man, this was just pretty much a, I won't say it was a squash match, but it was damn near close to it. Tiny little bit of offense from our girl Sassy Massey, not by much, but yeah, Venomous pretty much. This was over and done with. This was really all about Venomous going over. She got one pretty ass Venomous neck breaker off the ropes. I really like how she did that. She's got a nice calling card right there of a finisher. She cut a promo afterwards, putting all the women on WoW on notice, particularly Beast, Jungle Grrrl, Serpentine, Tessa Blanchard, but really homing in on Beast, letting all the women and Beast knows that she's there with one agenda on her mind. She's looking to become the WoW Women's Champion. So she's off to a pretty good start right here. We'll see what comes about with her in the months to come. Now, I'm not going to be on this show and say to you guys, oh, yeah, I'm very familiar with the work of Venomous, Ruby, Rays. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. But for the little bit that I had saw of her tonight, on this respected episode, she looked a bit impressive to me. I mean, you could definitely tell when you're looking at her that she is a older woman. You could definitely tell that, compared to fans that may have been following her work for years and years and years. You know, they probably think, oh, she hasn't really missed a beat. I don't mind a woman like Ruby Reyes. And while if the way, and I really genuinely get this vibe, I really feel as though even though we are building her up as this monster force, this juggernaut of a force, I do feel that ultimately we're going to be feeding a veteran like her to the younger talent in a Serpentine, aka Thunder Rosa, in a Beast, in a ultimately Kiera Hogan. You feel me? So I'm actually okay with, because that I'm just going with early impressions. I could be wrong with my first impression so far, but I'm okay with her. I'm definitely okay with her in here for now, until I see things differently. It's all good for now. Main event match. 4 matches, if you're keeping track. We got 4 matches on this episode. Main event match: Jungle Grrrl, Tessa Blanchard going at it. One of these women get to have some type of bragging rights, as hopefully they'll be one step closer to facing Beast for the championship. I really love the storytelling that took place here in this matchup, because we had Jungle Grrrl that has just, and we've seen this with Jungle Grrrl during the course of these episodes where Jungle Grrrl has just become so fixated on becoming the WoW World Champion again. And she has digged down deep. She's really taking it to another level because I swear the way her character has come off that championship, getting back to the top, has really consumed her. And she's really dug into deeper and darker levels to achieve the goal, I personally feel. And we really saw her at her pinnacle in this matchup because normally we see Jungle Grrrl, she's a little bit reserved. She's very cunning. She's very smart in the ring. But this go round, we had a Jungle Grrrl that pretty much was throwing caution into the wind. She was the extreme aggressor here in this matchup, something that normally we don't quite see of her. I like the change, Maya. I liked it. I mean, here we had a rare instance where Tessa Blanchard was the one that was doing a lot of running in this, and Jungle Grrrl is the one that's giving chase. I kind of liked it within reason because you think of Jungle Grrrl and how she's this bewildered animal, if you will, this Amazonian woman, if you will, and Tessa Blanchard, right? Okay, Tessa Blanchard is pretty much the hunted. She's pretty much the prey, and Jungle Grrrl is pretty much trying to capture her kill, basically. So I liked the psychology that we had here early on. Love all the fighting that they were doing outside of the ring. Jungle Grrrl sending Tessa over the barricades, crashing into the fans, and just pouncing on her. I was loving all of it. It was a nice, good, old-fashioned brawl between these two women. It had a nice, good throwback feel to it. I felt as though I was watching maybe Wendy Richter and Bull Nakano almost. I felt it was kind of old school like that within reason. So hopefully they take that as a compliment, because I do mean that as a compliment. But it was a nice, good throwback feel that they had going on here. I even like the fact that once the action had found itself into the ring a couple of times, because they went out the ring at least 2, maybe 3 times. But one of those times, I remember when the action had got back inside the ring, Jungle Grrrl was getting ready to do something on offense, and Tessa quickly just stomped the hell out of Jungle Grrrl's foot. And remember, Jungle Grrrl doesn't wear boots, so that bad boy was hurting, and Tessa Blanchard's on the offense now, and she's doing her thing. I love the way this match was laid out. In the final moments of this one, we really saw Jungle Grrrl dig down deep, let me tell you. She brought in Jungle Grrrl a steel chair, and Jungle Grrrl was possessed like a mofo. She had to use this steel chair. The referee takes this steel chair. I mean, he had a tough time getting it out of her hands, but when he finally did, he's trying to take it over the ropes and eliminate it. And while he's doing this, Jungle Grrrl quickly goes to the outside, grabs another steel chair, goes back inside the ring, lays the living crap out of Tessa Blanchard. Struggled a little bit to kick the chair out on the outside, but manages to pull it off. It felt like an eternity because you're wondering, what's the ref doing? Boy, that chair can't be that heavy. What's going on with the ref? Ref's got to sell it, though. Ref's got to sell it. It was a little bit kind of, it was kind of struggling there, but rather decent still. Jungle Grrrl goes up to the top rope, connects with her trademark Jungle Splash. 1, 2, 3. Jungle Grrrl picks up the W. But the lengths that she took, honestly, you can make the argument that, look, when it calls for that particular opponent, Jungle Grrrl is going to adapt and she's going to do what is necessary. And you can make an argument that in this case, she knows that Tessa Blanchard is one of those women that you really don't want to be playing around with because she's a dirty player. And whatever trick she can pull, she will freaking go there. She will definitely go there. And that was pretty apparent when you think about what had went down a couple of weeks ago. Remember how Serpentine ended up becoming the new #1 contender. is because in the final moments, when Jungle Grrrl was on the top rope, referee was distracted. Sophia Lopez had handed a briefcase over to Tessa Blanchard, and Blanchard had hit Jungle Grrrl's back, knocking her off the top rope. And by the time Tessa Blanchard was trying to get into the ring, go for the cover, spoils the victor, Serpentine had capitalized, got the 3 count, and the rest was pretty much history. So you can look at what Jungle Grrrl did a couple of ways, but the way I'm mainly looking at it is, look, Tessa Blanchard, she ain't doing nothing any different than what Tessa Blanchard had did to her. And knowing the type of playbook that your opponent is going to be coming at you, why not beat them at their own game? And that's exactly what Jungle Grrrl had did. So I wouldn't be surprised if on the very next episode, Jungle Grrrl comes out trying to lay her claim to, okay, now that we got that out the way, I need to be the number 1 contender, crowned officially. I got dibs on the Beast next, but wouldn't be surprised if Tessa Blanchard came out, had a thing or two to say about it. But wait, there was no appearance by Serpentine, aka Thunder Rosa, on this episode. Remember, Serpentine had got interference there in her matchup for the WoW Women's Championship against the Beast when Jungle Grrrl and Tessa Blanchard interfered, remember. So we could still ultimately go down a path here where once and for all, we're going to get some type of a triple threat. Whoever comes out of that, definitive number 1 contender, and maybe some stipulations will be named where if anybody tries to interfere, they're going to be suspended indefinitely on the spot. Or Beast is going to have to defend the championship against all of those women, or there's still a lot of sorting out, to my point, that's going to have to go down here. But we also got to keep in the back of our minds what role, as I mentioned from last week, will EXILE play, because you know their presence is ultimately going to be made on these women and that WoW Women's Championship. And then let's not also forget about Ruby Reyes, aka Venomous. She's already put those women on spot. She's put them on blast. So there's a whole lot of interesting developments that's going on here with this WoW Women's Championship. And I'm loving it. There are so many degrees to this, man. So many degrees to this. But I'm loving it. This episode, since I've been checking out these lost episodes, and I'm sure some of you guys would agree with me. Look, I am no, respected director or renowned editor or anything, but I gotta tell you, if my keen ears and eyes can notice it, then I know you all will probably notice it as well. But this was probably, if not the first, possibly the second episode where I was noticing some audio issues. And it had nothing to do with the app. Had nothing to do with the app, because I ended up watching the same scenes, particular scenes I'm talking about. I ended up watching them on the other app as well. So when not watching it on Pluto, I just, for reference, okay, let's see what's going on via the CW app. The audio was not only out of sync on this episode, but there was also a bad reverb, a bad echo effect. It almost sounded as if I were to just unplug my XLR from my mic right now, and you pretty much would just hear this crap audio. Maybe that would be coming into my computer, basically. The commentators, they sounded very gargled, very PA-ish. It was very crappy. And then some of the action, it wasn't quite matching up what you were seeing in the ring. So, for example, maybe you saw somebody throwing back their hand, they're cocking it back, and they're getting ready to throw a punch at somebody. Well, by the time you get to this, the next thing you know, there's a whole new sequence. They're standing differently, and the other person is now applying a choke slam. It was like, wait a minute. That other person was getting ready to cold clock you with a punch, and now we just go right into a choke slam? What the hell? So there was a lot of instances where the editing was not as smooth, and as far as setting up great transitional scenes when you're going from your one camera angle, slide perfect transition into your next camera angle, it was pretty rough. it was pretty rough. It felt very rushed in a lot of areas, and it wasn't a case where this just happened once. Oh, this just happened maybe 3 times. You saw it throughout this entire episode. I really wasn't a fan of that in the audio issues, but overall, a rather decent episode when it's all said and done. So that, boys and girls, is pretty much wow. Women of Wrestling episode 23. Lost episode 23 now in the books. I had said on last week's show we were going to do something cool and we were going to start going over some profiles and give you all updates on what's going on with particular Women of Wrestling stars and everything. And some of it we kind of already went into tonight, but we'll definitely do a nice proper on the very next episode. I promise you guys, because there's some I'm actually waiting to hear back from themselves, and maybe I can pass along a little something to you guys, if even possible at all. Just depends on if I'm able to establish the connection and pretty much go from there. So stay tuned in regards to that. But in the meantime, hey, if you made it up to this point and you enjoyed yourself here, definitely, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button. When you do that, you really help me out big time in spreading the word about the content. Shout out to those of you particularly that's going to be checking out the webcast version of this same episode via YouTube. Definitely hit that like button, because when you do that, it really helps YouTube out as far as reaching out, expanding more to a broader audience, and subscribe as well so you don't miss out on future content that comes your way. So that's pretty much it. Friendly reminder, we have Wednesday's RCWR show that was covering Dynamite and some other topics. That's now available on demand and on the download, so go check that out. You also got Tuesday's RCWR show that was covering NWA Powerrr Fallout. We also talked about NWA USA, so go check that out. And then, of course, this past Monday's RCWR show is available as well. So there's loads of great content for you guys to check out. And by the way, friendly reminder, coming up on Monday, Valentine's Day, February 14th, it is the Slow Jamming with Lee special. You guys will be able to tune in and check that out Monday morning beginning at 12:01 a.m. Eastern on Valentine's Day morning / nightish, if you will. So check that out. Oh, I love it. I gotta see what number that is, but I think that's either our 8th or 9th annual Slow Jamming special. So yeah, I've been doing it that long, y'all. I've been doing it that long. So if you're going to be around, you're going to be live and all that, definitely represent. Check it out. Always have a blast doing that special. Get at me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Use the keywords, the RCWR Show. And until next go round, I'm wishing for all of you all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. Be well, my friends, and I will see you next go round. Peace, y'all. Take care.